We even have a file called yoga. We have a file called the gym. We have a file called our mother. We have a file called our mother-in-law. We have a file even called the wife. You'll forgive me. Everything has a file. Everything. We have a file for our iPhone. Now, if something breaks or something needs repair, you know what we do? We go to our brain. We go to that filing cabinet. We open it up very, very slowly. We don't want it to bump into any other filing cabinet. We take that folder out. We don't want it to touch anything else. We open it up. We look at the issue. Usually we just put it back and ignore the issue. Sometimes we're about to be arrested tomorrow afternoon. We may actually deal with it. We put it back very quietly and we move on in life. Now, in the middle of our brain, we have this huge filing cabinet, and on it is a sign that says nothing. We men love to hang out in that space. We love just to be there. That's where we chill. That's where we're relaxed. In fact, if we wouldn't need to make a living, that's where we would spend most of our days and most of our nights, in that space called nothing. We just love being there. All the men know exactly what I'm talking about. So now you turn to your boyfriend or your husband and you say, so what are you feeling? And he's like, nothing. So what's going on with your emotions? Like, what are you? Nothing. Now you think he's cheating on you, he's keeping secrets, he's not sharing the truth. No, he's honest. We are capable of feeling nothing. That's a fact. We just, nothing, like really nothing is going on. We don't feel anything, and we like that. We like that. There's nothing that drives women crazy as when their husbands say, I'm feeling nothing. Because they don't understand that. Because a woman's brain is like www. It's the World Wide Web. It's a highway connecting hundreds of millions of neurons simultaneously with billions of windows open, going from one window to another window to another window, all interconnected and integrated like pasta. And there's no one slice, one strand of spaghetti isolated. It's all connected in this most extraordinary, holistic, organic, innate, harmonious oneness that pervades through all of the cosmos and beyond, and through every nuance and aspect of her life. So you have waffles and spaghetti, and now they meet for dinner, or post-dinner. And he's a good boy, and he decides, tonight, I'm going to listen to my girl. I'm not going to text, I'm not going to surf, I'm not going to watch whatever, I'm going to listen. So you sit down on the couch, and your boyfriend or your husband or whatever he is, to you, is actually attentive. He's looking at you. And he's like, honey, please shiur. And you're like, wow, this is like amazing. And this romance is building up, you know. And he's like, please shiur. So you start. You start with item number 1 on the list. For you, it's not called item number 1, but by us, everything is items and numbers. So it's like, okay, he makes a mental note. Item number 1. Item number 1 happens to be the fact that you don't like your job. Okay, so you start complaining about your job and your boss and the office and the employees and blah, and the times. So he opens up his brain, takes out a file called my wife's or my girlfriend's job. He makes a mental note she doesn't like her job. He puts it back very quietly. After 40 seconds, the subject changes to your mother. So he goes back to the brain, he takes out a file called her mother. He makes a mental note. After another few seconds, it changes to the fact that the cleaners ruined your most beautiful outfit. Then you discuss the leak in the house. Then you discuss the car. Then you discuss living conditions. Then you discuss vacation. Then you discuss that there's nothing for dinner. Then you discuss that you're nauseous. Then you discuss his manners. Then you discuss his sister. Then you discuss the bar mitzvah of his nephew and what your sister-in-law said to you at the bar mitzvah of the nephew. Anyway, it's now 2 minutes, and this poor guy is opening and closing his brain like this. Literally, because everything is a file with a cabinet and everything. And you have a deadline. You got to finish a paper because you're trying to get this degree. So now he goes into this issue of your studies, etc. It's now 3.5 minutes. You have discussed 83 subjects. He's pulling out every file very, very fast because it's not more than 9, 11 seconds. You could see it on his eyes. You could see on his eyes what's going on. But you're continuing. After 4 minutes, you've dealt with 206 ideas. He has been pulling out files so fast to make mental marks, from the cleaners to your mother, to the bar mitzvah, to the sister-in-law, to the job, to the leak, to the car, to the paper, to the this, to the that. At this point, he can't anymore. It's too difficult. He's just frantically opening and closing files. So the natural thing for him to do at this moment is kill himself. This would be the logical thing to do. There's one problem. The problem is he loves you. And he doesn't want you to remain alone without him. So what's the second to the best option is he falls asleep. So he's sleeping and he starts snoring. You just began to pour your heart out. And suddenly he's sleeping. Then you get very, very upset. Little do you know the deep romance of this moment. The only reason he's sleeping is because the alternative was to kill himself. And therefore he actually went to sleep to save you. It's an explosion of love that you should be seeing in every snore. Instead you feel rejected. You know why? Because men are waffles. Women are spaghetti. We don't communicate that way. We don't even believe in communication. We have a philosophy, and that is when you come home, you don't talk about the day. Our philosophy is, it was hard enough to experience the day. Now I have to talk about it? Why revisit a depressing moment? Why not just text? Or even better, eat? Or watch a movie? A woman's philosophy is, no. I experienced a what's a nice word? I experienced a crappy day. Now I gotta go back. I have to share everything that happened during that day, and not once. Once with my girlfriend, once with my sister, once with my mother, once with my other girlfriend. After 6, 7, 8 times of going through the experience, giggling and crying and weeping and sobbing and laughing, maybe after 9 times I will finally be able to spit it out of myself and move on with life. So you see, friends, the key to a good relationship is the ability to laugh at each other's differences by never thinking that truth is one-dimensional and the way I do things or see things, that is it. Truth in a relationship is subjective. Yours is yours, and mine is mine. So we have number 1, Adam knew Eve. You got to know the person. But not just know. You have to appreciate that truth in a relationship is always subjective. Which now brings us to the next point, point number 3. And that is this. A relationship will never last if you do not have a shared values in life. In other words, if I'm just attracted to you because you're good looking, I'm attracted to you because you have a spunky personality. You know that one? I'm attracted to you because, I don't know, there's things I like about you, there's things you like about me. Your humor, your sensitivity, your wisdom, your depth. A woman once told me she got divorced because of religion. I said, you're an atheist. She said, yeah, I worship money and he doesn't have it. So people get attracted for different things, which is nice. If you don't have real shared values in life, ultimately you lack the glue that could sustain a relationship. Because everything changes in life. I hate to say this, even thighs change. Everything changes. Forgive me, I'm just telling you the truth. Almost everything changes. That's how it is, okay? And you have to understand how it works again with men and women. Most girls that I know a lot of women. They're not pregnant, but I know them on some level. They told me that when they get married or when they get serious in a relationship, they're hoping and they're certain that their husbands or boyfriends will change. So now he's somewhat of a baby, which is natural. And because till we become viable, it takes longer. You know, they ask when a male becomes viable, when he graduates medical school, etc. So it takes them longer. But the girl thinks he's going to change. He'll become a mensch. He'll become normal. He'll grow up and so forth. The thing is, with men, most of them never change. So you hope he's changing, he doesn't change. With women, it's the exact opposite. Most men marry women hoping and believing they'll never change. The thing is, they change every day, sometimes every hour, but they're always changing. They're a dynamic. It's a dynamic. It's the World Wide Web. It's not a waffle. So therefore, it's extremely important to have something in life that doesn't change. What is it? What is it going to be? Is it going to be your beautiful looks? Hopefully. But you know what? Men get bored. It's just the tragic reality of things. Everybody gets bored. Women also get bored, and people change constantly. All things are flimsy and changeable. What you could share that will not change so easily are shared values. If you have shared values in life, in other words, you share ideals, dreams that you feel are worth sacrificing for, that you're committed to, that touch you in a very, very deep place. That allows a marriage to be sustained because there's something very deep that you're committed to. If not, the moment that glue is gone, you say, why are we together? Who needs this? Why do I need this headache? Why do I need this nuisance? So you have to ask yourself these questions. Do we really have shared values that are profound, that are deep, that are authentic, and will not change based on who wins the elections? They will not change based on our economic situation. They will not change based on if I look this way or that way. They will not change based if you're having a difficult day or an easy day. They will not change if we have to move or we have this issue or that issue. Because values, meaning things that I believe are really valuable in life, that I'm committed to, that defines so much of my life. What do I believe is a value? What is for you a real value that you will not sell for money? That you will not give up easily? This is a real value for you. And does he share that? And does she share that? And they don't share it just because they want to. They share it genuinely. You have to determine that. People don't realize how important that is because it's not even discussed. We discuss often things that are far more external. But really, I would say, this is one of the key issues to discuss in a relationship. You know why? Because this is not going to change so easily. This is where you could connect to people in a profound way. So yes, personality, looks are important. Personality is even more important than looks. Values is extremely, extremely important. There's one more thing I want to tell you, my friends. And that has to do with the fact, and maybe one of the issues that we seldomly discuss in our culture, and that is a long-term relationship something of real value or not? That's a question. And I'll say it very, very bluntly, and that is, in the secular conversation, we have no argument to be able to claim that there's something sacred in staying married, in being married and staying married. What's the argument? It's about comfort. It's about what works for you. That's it. And you can't blame them. There's nothing in the secular conversation that can make a real argument for it. What? Why should I? Because my mother, because my father, because my grandparents? I do what I want. I do what's comfortable for me. So therefore we live together for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. We get sick of each other, and you will get sick of each other. What next? You move on. If there's kids, it's a headache, it's a problem. I'm not going to sacrifice my whole future. I have to work it out for my kids. Here is, I think, where Judaism maybe plays a very, very important role. And that is, from a Jewish perspective, being in a relationship long term, getting married and maintaining the marriage is one of the holiest things you can do in your life. It's a sacred experience. There's something holy and sacred about a relationship between a woman and a man that is long term, that is called marriage. From a Jewish perspective, it's the purpose of creation. Torah says, man must leave tati and mami and cleave to his wife and become one flesh. You have to say bye to your mother's bubble baths and her pasta and start eating your wife's pasta or macrobiotic barley kernel diets, celery juice that she'll make you for breakfast in order to make you a mensch and quiet your boots. That is a question, because if for you marriage is a sacred value, but for your boyfriend it's not, or for the girl it is, for the boy not, or for the boy yes, for the girl is not, then you have here a very vulnerable situation. Let me give you an example with myself, okay? I'm married to a wife, you know my niece Dvorah? She's a special girl, right? Yeah. You know, it says that they take after the mother's brothers. That's true. The Talmud says when you want to marry a girl, you have to look at her mother's brothers. But check it up. You can Google it. You'll see. So when Yeye decided, what do they call you here, Yeye? When Yeye was thinking, should he marry Dvorah or not, who do you think he was looking at? He was looking me up and down. He was looking at me much more than her. Because he knew if I'm good stock, she'll be good stock. Okay? So, I'm also humble. You should just realize that. Why my wife married me, because of my humility. Why am I saying this? I'm saying this. I married a wonderful wife, but I'll tell you the truth. She's far better than me. In fact, she's a saint that she stays married to me. I travel here, I travel there, I travel the world. It's very hard to live with such people, okay? So really, she should have thrown me out of the house a long time ago. And like Plato told one of his students, you should get married. If you have a good marriage, you'll find love. And if you have a miserable marriage, you'll become a philosopher. So today we have many philosophers. We have many experts on marriage and relationships and so forth. And I often think to myself, you know, I know in my case, so many cases, the personalities are different. Husbands and wives have different personalities. So different, in so many different ways. What is really the glue that keeps together? So yes, you have to know your spouse. Yes, you have to realize that truth is not objective, it's subjective. Yes, you have to have shared values, but I think there's one more, this is the fourth item. If for you, holding on to the relationship long term is not a holy value, it's not something you think is worth sacrificing for, why should you do it? It's too uncomfortable. Let's face it. Having a partner, especially a man living in your apartment, is a never-ending adjustment. They're just impossible. Or she's impossible. Why? Not because you are, because we're different. What do I need it for? I asked Jackie Mason. You know Jackie Mason? He repeats a lot of my jokes. So I once asked him if he regrets not getting married. So he told me no. I said, why not? He said, my father told me marriage is an institution. I don't want to be institutionalized. Okay. So the question is, why should somebody be institutionalized? Marriage requires sacrifice, commitment, and the key word, compromise. Compromise, compromise, adjustment, consideration, sensitivity, respect. Who the hell needs these things? You know who I sound like now, right? Who needs these things? What do I need it for? I'll go out with you twice a week and have romance. For sex, you don't have to be married today. Good morning. In fact, marriage only ruins it usually. You start taking each other for granted, it gets too often. Stay single, it'll be much better. Play hard to get. Much better, more romantic, more interesting, more novel, more dramatic, more fun. Who needs it? Who needs it? What do you need it for? It's good to have a girlfriend, a boyfriend, but as long as you can say, bye-bye, go home. It's wonderful. You date twice a week, you're in the mood 3 times a week. The guy showers for an hour before, uses deodorant once a week, goes to the gym, looks good, comes out to the date, he's fresh. He didn't have a woman near him getting dressed for 4 hours. So they're not in the same apartment. It's beautiful. He didn't have to say, why don't you go with the purple? He didn't have to have nothing to wear, even though the closet has, I don't know, more dresses than he can even count. But I have nothing to wear. Again, it's something men don't understand. They have 2 suits for 45 years. It's fine. Shopping takes 29 minutes. Underwear, undershirts, socks, pants you buy for 2 years, and it's fine. Okay, it's a whole other issue I'm not going to analyze right now, but it's something you have to really figure out. That women are not just physical creatures, they live with emotions, and therefore if I don't feel good in the dress, I don't have a dress. We don't wear suits to feel good. I don't have to feel good in my suit. I just have to have a suit to put on because I don't walk around naked. At least not at this point. The objective for clothes for me is just not to be naked. That's it. If it looks a little good, it's fine. If not, not shine. Tough luck. But by a woman, it doesn't work that way. It doesn't work that way. It's like my emotions are deeply interconnected in a very mystical and spiritual and psychological spaghetti-like way with every outfit. And that's why when suddenly you look at one outfit of hers and you say, wow, I love it, suddenly she has what to wear. Suddenly, ex nihilo, like God, who created this dress, something from nothing, she has what to wear. Or like a couple once came to me, they spent 8 hours in Costco on Sunday, which is a duty for Jewish couples. Sunday morning when you get married, this is what you look forward to. You go to Costco and you stock up. In case there'll be a blackout, you never know what happens. A 30-year-old war, especially with your new president-elect, you never know what happens. You have to stock up from Costco. It's very, very important. So, on the way back, she looks at him and she says, you know, we should spend time together. He looks at her and he's thinking, 8 hours. 8 hours, because you wanted it. That's not called spending time. Go tell the jerk that spending time doesn't mean being in the same physical planet at the same time. Spending time means you sit and you look at each other and you do nothing. And you just absorb the energy. And you're just empathetic. And you just experience something called me. It's very hard for them to understand all these things. They need training sometimes for 60 years, and by that time they're dead already. Somebody asked me why women live longer than men, or why men live shorter than women. I said they want to. But present company excluded. So it's fine. If you didn't get that, it's fine. And these things you don't repeat a second time. They're horrible New York humor. If a long-term relationship is not a sacred, holy value by you, it really doesn't make sense. Somebody says, why is there 50% divorce? I said, why not? Well, a guy comes to a rabbi and says, Rabbi, I want to get divorced. The rabbi says, who doesn't? Welcome, you want to okay, we go. Who doesn't? Everybody wants to. Who doesn't? Everyone has issues. You think you're the only one who has issues? The question is not if you have issues. Couples have issues. Jews have more issues. Same issues, just a little more. Jewish women? Huh. Got it. The question is something else. Is it worth sacrificing for? How important is it in life? How important is it? This is the difference. Your grandmother believed. I know the feminists are going to say, no, your grandmother was a repressed slave. It's not true. Meet my grandmother, okay? Meet my mother, they weren't so repressed. They weren't so repressed. Okay, they didn't have PhDs, fine. They weren't judges and lawyers, fine. They weren't as repressed as they make them. But for them, it was a high value, maybe the highest, that's worth paying a price for. I don't mean a price of abuse. I don't mean a price of dysfunction. I don't mean a price of misery. I mean a price of compromise. consideration, dedication, sensitivity, and commitment. It's a price. It's a price. Compromise is a price. It means it's not always my way. You know the t-shirt, I'm easy to get along with once you learn to worship me. It's not going to work. Do you believe it's worth it? This is what you should be discussing on your dates if you're taking it seriously. If you're not discussing this on your dates, you're in la la land. You're absolutely in la la land. Because this is what's going to happen. In 4.5 years, in 6 years, in 7 years, there's going to be differences. Career-wise, financial-wise, emotional-wise, physical-wise, looks-wise. And these men on their iPhones in the bathrooms, forget what they look at. What are you going to compete with? These guys, these dirty, horny guys, what are you going to compete with? So what's going to save this relationship? Nothing. 50%. Leave. It's basically heads and tails. There's only one way to deal with this, and that is if you can both figure out that this is a holy value that's worth sacrificing for, then there's hope. If not, just acknowledge that. It's going to be probably at least 50% of the time, 60% of the time, short-lived. Because dating is much easier. You know what happens in a date? It's perfect. He showers, he gets out, he picks you up, and you realize he comes out and he holds the door open. Remember? Whenever I see a guy holding the door of the car open for his girl, it's one of two things. Either it's a new wife or a new car. One of the two. And then you sit down in the car, he looks you in your eyes, and he says, "What's going on?" with a whisper. And you're like already romantic, you know, you're all over the place. And you begin sharing for the last 48 hours. And when you're done after 2 hours, he says, "Now go back 72 hours. And you share another day and another night. And it's wonderful, it's gewaldic. And then as long as 10:30 or 11 o'clock or 12 o'clock or whatever it is, he drops you off at your flat and you go to floor 38. And he says, "Bye-bye, you're the best, see you in a month." And he goes home and he does his own thing. He goes into the house and he throws off his shoes. One shoe in the west and one shoe in the east. One sock in the south and one sock in the north. And there's no girl standing near him and saying, "That's disgusting. You remind me of your mother." And then he goes to the kitchen and there's still a pot of meatballs from a week ago. And he licks the red meatball sauce. Don't act like you're horrified, okay? I'm telling you the facts of life. And then he plops down on the couch with a bag of chips and a twig of beer. He watches a tennis match between two people of Czechoslovakia that he doesn't know, and he's enjoying it. And within a half an hour, he falls asleep on the leather couch, snoring, with the oily chips all over the place. At 1 a.m, he wakes up and he feels like a hippopotamus, sweating in the couch. The television is on. Now they have, I don't know, I Love Lucy or whatever they have. And he gets up from the couch. Like a hippopotamus, he walks to his bed. Of course, half of his bed is covered with laundry, but he carves out a little corner in his bed. And he crawls in like a little antelope. And he sleeps. It works. And then the next day, a week later, he showers again. It's perfect. Okay? This is all dating. Now marriage. Marriage, the first thing that happens in marriage is you see what the bathroom looks like after a shower. After he showers, what that bathroom looks like. Noah's flood pales in comparison. Even Katrina pales in comparison. That's what it looks like, okay? The next thing is the moron uses the wrong towels to wipe his body. He uses the towels with the tassels on the bottom that are hanging over one of the banisters. And he doesn't realize the distinction between towels that lack tassels on the bottom and towels with tassels. The towels without the tassels are made to dry your body. The towels with the tassels are there, they're raison d'etre, is there to create artistic symmetry between the wallpaper and the toilet, between the toothbrushes and the hairdryer, between the lipstick and the rug. And this idiot, this shaita, this creep, is using these towels to wipe his body. Can you imagine this? What is worse, after your marriage, you observe that he drinks from seltzer bottles. He's too lazy to take a cup. He takes out the seltzer bottles and he drinks it. That's what I also observe. After marriage, you also observe him in the presence of his mother. From this macho, confident guy, he's reduced to an ant. He can't finish one sentence straight, because God forbid to give his mother nachas. She should think that he's happy. He wants to make sure she is miserable by thinking that he's miserable till her last breath, and then he's happy. He fulfilled his mission in life, called revenge. And then you discover his ego, you discover his insecurities, and then you discover some other stuff as a rabbi I'm not going to get into. All these things, this happens all after marriage. You know the story. This guy comes to a cemetery, and he's standing near a tombstone, and there's this old lady, she's like 90, she's standing in front of the tombstone. Why did you die? Why did you die? Why did you die? And he goes over to her and he says, who died? She can't speak. Why did you die? She's screaming at the grave. He says, who was it? Your husband, your child, your best friend, your sibling. No, why did you die? He says, who was it? She says, my husband's first wife. So you see, that was fucking. I just got it. So as a result of this, if I don't consider it a real sacred value to remain in a long relationship, you'll have every excuse to get out. From a Jewish perspective, the most spiritually rewarding thing one can do during their sojourn on earth is to be in a long-term, hopefully eternal relationship. Why is that so valuable? For two reasons. First of all, it allows us to transcend our ego and allows us to work on our insecurities. And it challenges us to surprise our comfort zones. And it allows us to create eternity through a family. We're only here because people did that in previous generations. So it's essential to the engine of existence, and it's essential to the spiritual calling of the soul. But this is a discipline. This is a value. It's a perspective. I can't prove it secularly. I can't prove it. There's no way I can argue this. I can say, for me it works, for you it doesn't work. Fine. And I have no argument. I think you're right. Essentially, this is a Jewish argument. I don't want to say the word religious, because I know we're allergic to that word. We're Jews. Jews are very allergic to religion. Even though Jews are religious, because even Jewish atheists are religious. They deny God with religious fervor, if you ever noticed. I never found neutral, calm Jewish atheists. I don't know, I never found such a Jew. Jews are atheists with religious passion. They believe in atheism as much as religious Jews believe in God. But that's a separate subject. The point is that this is essentially a Jewish value. Okay, so what did I say, my dear friends? I really have no clue, and I should get home before my wife divorces me. So therefore, let me summarize what I told you. I tried to make 4 points. I hope some of them were wise, and if not, I'm sorry. Point number 1 was, either kill him or kill yourself. That was the introduction. If you don't want to do either for legal reasons or moral reasons, I'm not sure why, but if you don't want to do either, you don't want to assassinate him, which is always the best solution. I mean, it gets rid of all the problems, but say you didn't come for that. Okay, it was a joke. Relax, don't worry. Don't kill him and don't blame me. If you hear that somebody got shot tonight, don't blame me, okay? I said it was a joke. Don't kill him. You can kill his mother. I mean, so, I was joking. Okay. Rule number 1, actually step number 1, Adam knew Eve. You gotta take time to figure out your girl. You gotta take time to figure out your boy. You gotta know them. Into me, see. I have to know who you are. Number 2, for your relationship to work, Truth is not objective in a relationship. It's subjective. For you, this may be 1,000,000% true, even though I don't see the value in it. It doesn't make sense to me. Some people have to be in the airport 4 hours before the flight. It's their truth. If not, they turn into pumpkins. If I'm in the airport more than a half an hour before my flight, I turn into a pumpkin. Some people do practice packing. You know what practice packing is? I'll tell you what it is. 2 weeks before your flight, you pack and you practice. You see if everything fits. If not, you rethink the entire process. Maybe you have to purchase a new suitcase. And then 2 nights before, you do the final round of packing. Some of us are packing in the taxi. We schlep our shirts out of the taxi, and in the taxi we're zippering the things. What is true, what is not true? There's no truth. Your husband is this way, your girlfriend is this way, your boyfriend is this way. If I cannot make peace with subjective truth in a relationship, you're doomed. And you have to compromise for that. Number 3, shared values. You don't got shared values, don't invest much. There's too many things that may really have really shared values. What are your shared values? And are they opposite? Are they synchronized? You know, it's a very interesting thing. Somebody asked me if they should marry a non-Jew. What do you think I told them? What do you think I told them? I said, listen, you'll do what you want. Let me just tell you something to think about, okay? I'm not telling you who to marry or not to marry. I want to tell you something. When do most people make their decisions about long-term relationships? It's usually in their 20s or 30s, okay? Early 30s or late 20s, whatever it is, around then. Now, when is the period in life that people most detach from their upbringing and try to make an independent life for them, right? When you go to college, you go to university, whatever, you're 18, 19, 20, your 20s, your young 30s, you're trying to say, I am my own person. So when we are trying to detach from our home, that's usually when we're making decisions about marriage. The problem is, 10 years later, emotionally you gravitate back to your house, back to your community, especially when you have your own kids. So the funny thing is that the most serious decision that people make in life are usually in the years when they are in a certain stage and they're soon going to change. When you're going to be 51, you will probably want your son to have a bar mitzvah. When you were 29, you didn't give a damn if your son has a bar mitzvah or not, because religion didn't mean anything to you. Bar mitzvah is a joke. It's like a spitball fight. It's more a bar than a mitzvah. So it didn't really mean anything. When you're 51, you get like emotional, especially your father dies, whatever, things get very emotional. Now, I didn't mean to say it that way, but whatever. Your mother kills him, whatever. I'm just joking. Things happen. Okay, so they asked me who they should marry. I said, I don't know who you should marry. You got to decide who you should marry. But marry somebody that 20 years down the line, you will have a shared value. And you're going to discover that when your wife or husband wants a Christmas tree, even though now you consider yourself an atheist, it may not be so rosy for you. Just don't fool yourself. Maybe it works for you, but realize that when you're not going to be 29 forever. You're not. You're not even going to be 33 forever. Only people like me stay young forever. Because I hang out around young people. Most of us get old. I think Simon and Garfunkel, when they sang The Boxer here in Central Park, they added a line to The Boxer, and that is, I'm older than I was, and I'm younger than I'll be. That's not unusual. So that's what happens. Shared values. Shared values, my friends. That's number 3. Number 4, you really got to ask yourself if a long-term relationship is a real, sacred reality in your eyes, or it's dispensable. Is it something worth the effort of dedication, compromise, and sacrifice? Friends, I wish you a most beautiful, romantic, explosive, in a good way, loving, emotional, and empowered Jewish life. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll take a few questions or objections. Or as good Jews, alternate speeches. If anybody wants to, I mean, you're free to do whatever you want. If anybody wants to ask any questions, or go get some sushi is probably more advisable, or some waffles or spaghetti if they have. It's also fine, but if anybody wants to ask a question, feel free to. Okay, the men are not going to do it because they were sleeping. Probably a woman is going to ask. Yeah. How did I know? Do you know I've been lecturing for almost 20 years, and the first question, 99.9% comes from a woman. You know why? Because you think, okay, I'm glad you believe in yourself. No, you think the men are usually sleeping. That's true. You know what I mean? That's the fact. I was watching. Yes?
I'm just curious if you could, I don't know if anyone else
A little louder, I'm sorry.
I'm just curious if you could talk a little bit more about what you mean by shared values specifically, because you made comments about personality, and I'm trying to understand like values and compatibility, sort of what's the
Excellent.
difference.
Personalities people know about. You have to appreciate other person's personality. If I think he's whatever, it's going to be tough. Values is not about personalities. Values is about commitments. What is a value for me? For example, I'll give you an example. Take an experience like Shabbat in Jewish life. For me, that's a value. What is the value of Shabbat? What do I do? What is it? What is it? I sit at a computer for many hours of the day, like I'm sure many of you, or most of you, right? And I consider myself a busy guy, because most Jewish men need that for self-confidence. For me, there's something very valuable about the fact that now sunset is what, 4:40 p.m. Okay, candlelighting is 4:25, whatever the earliest weeks, winter. It comes 4:25. I still have 300 emails that I didn't answer. Nonetheless, my phone goes off, my computer goes off. It's now a holy day. At the meal, Friday night, there's no phone, there's no television, there's no computer. There's just conversation, of course, gefilte fish, and song. Okay. That's a value, but it's a commitment. It's not about personality. Even if I'm very busy, for me, Shabbat is a value. It's a sacred day. I will not work. I will not use the computer. I will not use the phone. For me, it's very important because part of why it's important is I think it's an extraordinary opportunity that all the children know that Tati and Mommy are not going to be checking any emails and any text. They're just going to be focusing on each other and on the family. I think every family deserves it. Even if you're an agnostic atheist, I think you deserve such a night and such a day. It's 25 hours by us in the house. That's not about my personality. That's about a value I have. And a value that I'm ready to sacrifice for. It's a value that I will sacrifice for under all circumstances. That doesn't change after 10 years. Another value might be, what is the role of God in the house? What is the role of Judaism in the house? What is the role of spirituality in the house? What is the role of kosher in the house? What is the role of physical nutrition in the house? Is everything made of soy and tofu? Or do we believe in 7-layer cake and cheese danishes? Ultimately, there are many different types of values. Okay, in my case, actually, I believe in chocolate danishes, and my wife is, the good stuff, the healthy stuff, lettuce and cucumbers. And the main thing is kale. I never learned, I discovered kale recently. Okay, almond milk and kale. When I grew up, my mother used to say, eat real food, bread, rice, pasta. Turns out our own mothers were trying to kill us. So values really means, literally like the word, what do you value in life? What are the values by which you want to raise a family? What are the values by which you want the house to operate on? What are the values I say, even if I'm not in the mood, this is happening. Even if I'm not in the mood. Do we have such things? If we don't have such things, ultimately it's very easy for a relationship to fall apart because there's so many different considerations. These are some of the values. Things like that. Yes.
What makes
Yes, no question. Why am I calling a long-term relationship a Jewish value? The answer is all the religions that believe that a long-term relationship is a value, the origin of it, as far as I know, is the Hebrew Bible. The Torah, which established that part of the purpose of creation is to be in a long-term relationship. That's why I call it a Jewish value. For example, if you want to talk about it from a Christian perspective, or you want to talk about it from another perspective of another religion, ultimately it will go back to Genesis, which is a Jewish book. That's why I called it a Jewish value. In terms of people who just create this value on their own, it's a subjective value, which is beautiful. But I have no argument for it. I have no argument to sustain it. It's like if you have that value, great. I don't. And if one spouse has it, another spouse doesn't have it, why should one continuously sacrifice for it? Somebody else wanted to ask something? Yeah.
One piece of advice to a couple about to be married.
One piece of advice to a couple about to be married. That's a wonderful, wonderful question. Okay. And that is, stop laughing if you know it's good for you. The good piece of advice one piece of advice I would tell you is, don't lose ever your sense of humor. Don't lose your sense of humor. Always remember that confident people know how to laugh at themselves. Okay? That's my advice to you. Does he have a good sense of humor? And do you have a good sense of humor?
Depends on the day.
He says depends on the day. Okay, it's excellent. Make sure you have shared values.
I want to thank you very much for everything.